Deputy Minister of Water is currently speaking. Let's listen in.
On the 27th of January, in Zekerbos, another engine room, 4A and 4B, another incident happened where certain motors in the pump systems, they also got affected. We were able to restore those particular pumps within 48 hours to bring them into functionality. But as we are quite aware, the water systems in Gauteng, they are mostly vulnerable. Most of our reservoirs are almost below 60%. For the reservoir to give you the necessary redundancy or a backup, you need the reservoir to be above 60% so that even if there's a trip or any system failure, it can give you more than 72 hours or 48 hours. And when the assessment was done, our technical teams here, we have the CE for Johannesburg Water, we also have the leadership of Rand Water here. Our report said we are going to take more than 10 days to stabilize the system. And our decision was to say we're not going to allow for that particular period. People can't live without water. When the water was starting to try to stabilize, the mayor and myself and the MEC, directed by the premier and the minister, were immediately on the ground. On the 31st of January, then there was another pump station where there was a power failure. And in water, when there's a power failure or a system failure, even if it's for an hour, it can take you more than 5 or 7 hours to stabilize the system. It's unlike when you press electricity, the currents flows there and there. We thought our problems were over. On the 1st of February, there was a pipe leak. And the pipe leak that happened while we were being joined by Her Excellency, our Minister, Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Comrade Minister, for joining us. As I've explained that the high-level delegation is led by you and the Premier, but MEC Mamavula, myself, and the executive mayors have been on the ground. On the 1st of February, where the pipe leak. That pipe leak is supplying a reservoir called Clairefontaine Reservoir. In the main, it's supplying this size of Johannesburg, supplying certain parts that go to Tshwane, including the areas of Bedfordview. We lost more than 450 million liters in that particular system. That affected Midrand as the biggest area, your Grand Central, all those particular areas that were there. In between that time, you are quite aware that the first incident, with no water that was coming to Soweto, no water in the areas of Alexandra, certain areas here, including the areas of the CPD that were not getting water. Then the immediate issue we did, we then Minister sent us with the MEC, we went on the ground, we dealt with the issue of stabilizing of the system when it came to Midrand. But because the system was so low and there was no water available mainly in the system, especially where the reservoirs are not in a good space, we then were then in a position to start to bring water cutting. Water cutting are a temporary measure, and our minister, she's on record, we don't love cutting. We want cutting to be used on a temporary basis. The cutting was not a proper response because you needed to have an area where you can be in a position to ensure that there's a place where you can draw the water. There were no points to draw the water. And then immediately the system was starting to recharge. And the Clairefontaine and the Palmer system started to move to 23%, moving to 31% and 40%. And many areas started to get water. But the high-lying areas, they had no water at all. That's what actually happened in terms of dealing with those. As a response, additional areas when the system started to stabilize, more cards were being brought on board. And the cutting system, it has its own difficulties. The mayor has spoken, he will give you the numbers that were being supplied to those areas. But when you deal with cards, an area like a metro, card is not going to make any difference because you have public institutions and you have the issues of the economy that have to be dealt with. But we don't want it to go back to some of those issues. And you know that in the recent week or two, we've been having issues of high temperatures. When there were high temperatures that were happening, it was normal for the drawing of water by residents that the issues of consumption became very, very high. When the consumption became very high, the minister and Rand Water, they communicated through the office of the Premier, the mayors and the MEC. And MEC wrote to all the municipalities to say, we need to start to save water and use water sparingly. We know that the idea of say save water, you can't say it to people that don't have a drop. But there are those that we mean that they were getting a drop of water, but in the main, they were not using water wisely in terms of swimming pools and all those particular issues. Then the system on Sunday, it started to come down, the entire system of rainwater. And it came down as low as around 23%. Then the MEC convened a political meeting that he reported to the minister, the premier, so that these municipalities can be able to deal with those particular issues. But where are we? We have done an assessment, Comrade Minister, that in terms of the immediate issue of restoring the situation in the areas where there is no water and not to allow the system to crash, we have agreed that with the technical team to support their recommendation that there is going to be a soft water restriction. The soft water restriction will only apply in the areas where the system is already providing water, because those are the areas that are providing water. They are going to be put on a restriction. We are going to communicate. It's not going to only affect Johannesburg. It will affect Tshwane. It will affect Ekurhuleni. It will affect certain parts of Mpumalanga and Northwest, because that soft restriction is on a rainwater system, which is the main system, so it doesn't get to collapse. The second point, while we do the soft lock in terms of soft restriction, we'll then do something called load shifting. In other words, those reservoirs and the system that are already in a healthy state in the other areas where there is water, there is going to be the movement of water to try to fix these other reservoirs that their levels are very low, especially around these areas of Hess Hill, your Brixton, you name all of them, so that at least we can be in a position to try to stabilize the system. Equally, we have said that we are then going to ensure that the teams that must deal with the issues of the water losses, there is too many pipes here that are actually gushing water. They are not replaced on time when the system is vulnerable. The teams of Rand Water, Johannesburg Water, and all the municipalities are directed by Minister, the Premier, that they have to increase teams in terms of shift. There's going to be a shift for night that if an incident is reported, then the team is dispatched with the tools of trade. Then they are able to isolate the system. They are able to communicate in those communities to say how long the problem is going to be taken. Equally, we have to be able to deal with illegal connections. Many areas are supposed to get water. Other people have chosen in between to connect to the main lines. Illegal connections is going to fall. While illegal connections is going to be removed and people must cooperate with councillors, the law enforcement agencies, government will have to find a mechanism in a temporary way to provide those that will be disconnected because it's an illegal act. Another option, we are going to look the discussion with the minister and see whether the rainwater system, is there any optimization that we can be able to look at. And one of the things that, Minister, that you directed Johannesburg over time, you came here for your visit, is that these problems are going to be with you for some time. We must never say that our intervention are a silver bullet. One of the intervention is to create storage. Without sufficient storage, if the system fails, you will have no ability to keep water for 48 hours or 72 hours. The intervention that the Brixton Tower that we visited, Minister, and the reservoir is now 98% complete. That Brixton Tower has been tested right now. It has the capacity to keep water now. Already over the last 2 weeks, we're doing some test runs. As we speak right now, that Brixton Tower does not have the water we need. When the load shifting is happening and the soft restrictions are being implemented, it will allow us the opportunity, Minister, to fill it so that these areas that are hard-struck, they are not having problems. And there is also a tower that is there. By the first week of March, they should have completed everything. But between now and the end of February, we want these reservoirs, Minister, to be brought to a level that we need to be satisfied. Another reservoir that gives us problem is the Grand Central. The Grand Central is one of our biggest reservoirs, and the other reservoirs are on the levels that we are very, very satisfied that we can be able to maintain it. That's the intervention. In Midrand, we know now that another tower is going to be commissioned by now in March. It will give those technical people just to stabilize, to have additional storage. Minister, you remember there is an issue of the bypass of reservoirs. One of the reservoirs that has been bypassed is the Heads Hill Reservoir. That reservoir must give us 26 million liters per day. As we speak right now, the contractors, they are on the ground, working underground to fix that reservoir, because at any time, if you don't have that reservoir, the system shuts down in these areas. Then on the other side, we are having the new pump station, so that at least when the pipe is connected to the rainwater main system, the pumps is very old, that is there, more than 1974 that it was built, that particular pump, and that pump station has not been giving us the boost that we need. We are very pleased that there are 2 pumps that are being installed there, and the meter was around. And the team has actually put the issues of the lines to connect, so that at least we can receive those particular volumes that are there. And they have been informed that, Minister, by Wednesday next week, we'll be having that pump capability. Because we don't want people to be getting water through cuts. We want water to get through the taps. And when the water is through the taps, the quality of lives will improve, but the residents will then pay for the particular services. And then those are the issues that, Minister, we thought when you gave the direction that we should be on the ground, and the members of the media, they are here. Unfortunately, we had an incident, and we wanted to appeal to communities. Firstly, let's not politicize the matter of water. Water knows no boundaries. It knows no ideology. Water does not believe on rich or poor. We all need water. It's a right to life. In our own goodwill, as public representative, we tried to go there. We spoke to the councillor of the area as a public representative to speak to those citizens. Fortunately, you could see there are citizens who are genuinely concerned that they have not been having water, but they are also political opportunists. We know it's a mad season around the question of elections. She was not allowed to speak to people, and immediately ourselves and the Prima were all there. We tried to say, let's get to this kind of a platform so that we can be able, in a civil way, hold us accountable, but equally ask us what are the plans. But we're not only having plans, but we're also saying, what is the responsibility of citizens? Because management of water without the role of the citizens. We tried to engage with the minister, we couldn't succeed. Comrade Mayor did speak to some of them. some throwing in insults. Well, it comes is a premium of the job. Our task is to restore water. That is our task. And then later on, after this briefing now, the minister and the premier are going to lead us. Remember, the president has intervened. There's a presidential working group. We've been having relationship with experts, academia, business, and civil society, including the Water Secure Partnership for Gauteng, that we're trying to give a long-term solution while we're attending to the immediate challenges. Therefore, this afternoon, then, Comrade Minister will meet with the Water Crisis Committee, the Business Chamber. The last point is to our councillors. Councillors were not the councillors of parties, were the councillors of communities. The technical teams, they need your support. In the morning, we received the status of each reservoir and each system. And in the afternoon, Comrade Speaker, we received the information working with the MMC for infrastructure here. Let that information not be diluted. Give it to the citizens. Let's not hide our difficulties. But equally, no one must claim that we've done nothing when we've done something. And this morning, Minister, we went to Tshwane. The system in Tshwane is still vulnerable, Comrade Premier. Yesterday, I went to Reed Flay on behalf of the Minister. Tshwane is in a position to bring in additional 40 million litres in that particular treatment plant. With the MEC, we also went to Rodeplat this morning, and were promised that in March and April, Tshwane is going to have an additional 60 million minister. And Randwater is implementing both those two projects so that the pressure in the main system of Randwater were able to reduce it. That will be the high-level brief on some of the issues on how far we've been moving. It does not necessarily mean that we have not been on the ground, and the MEC will add because we've been the runners on behalf of the two principals.